Hello and welcome to the largest panel at TABConf. We actually have a special treat for you who stay through the entire panel because afterwards we're going to get a sneak peek into a documentary that's currently being produced by none other than Carlinho at the end there. This panel is on Bitcoin education. And has anyone here learned anything at TABConf so far? Has anyone experienced education? Okay. So we're all in the same boat. Good. That's good to know. These people are involved, they're here now, but they've come from communities all over the world, and I'm going to give them all a chance to talk about where they're from, what they're doing in their community, and how they're changing the world one place at a time. Lucas, you want to start?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm a Lightning evangelist at Lightning Labs, but I also co-founded with André Neves 21 in Brazil. And we are a nonprofit dedicated to funding and educating Bitcoin developers so they can become Bitcoin developers in Brazil. So we started by giving a small grant to a Bitcoin core developer that was working from Brazil, and now he's like also leading our educational efforts there. I don't know, like if I should like how much time? Yeah, okay.
Hi everyone, hola, I'm Dulce, I'm from Mexico. I came to this beautiful place to learn English and learn Bitcoin. And then I found out now I have a skill. I know English, Bitcoin, and Spanish. And I got inspired for many other people after taking the Chain Code seminar, what the Kala team was doing, El Sonte. And I thought I have the responsibility to share my knowledge. I am not a Bitcoin core developer, I wish, but I have a lot of Bitcoin love. And we start Libreria Satoshi, it's a community, and we are more than 15 people volunteering and giving our love in America Latina for more than 20 countries. And I'm very happy to be here with people that I admire a lot.
Hey everyone, I am Nifty. On the education front, I co-founded Base 58, which is we're based in Texas, but we've been doing stuff online, so sort of international reach. We've had students from all over the world. The one class that we started with is a Bitcoin transactions class, and it's actually teaching Bitcoin protocol, like the bytes level, to anyone who's curious about how it works and wants to become basically a better developer who really understands what's going on with Bitcoin scripts and signatures and that sort of stuff.
Hey everyone, I'm Santos Hernandez from Zebedee. I'm the business lead of tech and product. I help run the Arizona Bitcoin Network, where we do local, remote, and self-serve education, ranging from the Lightning Network 101 through building paywall. And I also worked on an e-learning platform. My background is predominantly in fintech and financial services over the last year, last 10 years. And my last role was at MX doing basically bank integrations and managing all corporate card data through a data warehouse. I have a TikTok where I do micro videos, as well as I built an e-learning platform with a marketplace. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of what I've been working on in terms of education. And I actually dropped out of school when I was 14, and I'm entirely self-educated through massive open online courses, audiobooks, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So I'm grateful to be up here.
Hi everyone, I'm Carla. I'm a software engineer at Chain Code Labs working on the Lightning Network. I was very fortunate to go to the long form Chain Code Labs residency in 2019, where I had the chance to work on Lightning and whatever I wanted in Bitcoin for 3 months, and it really changed my life, and now I get to work on Lightning every day. So since then, I've just been really passionate about paying it forward and making sure that other folks have the chance to do the same kind of incredible things that Chain Codes let me do. I am a co-founder of an organization called Kala Africa, not to be confused with my name, sorry for that. It means to build or to start in isiZulu, which is a South African language, which is the country I'm from. And this year we ran what we call our Genesis cohort, which is a 3-month paid education program, really inspired by things like Summer of Bitcoin and the Chain Code Labs residency. And the outcome of that program was that we placed 12 African, mostly Nigerian, developers in roles in the Bitcoin ecosystem, working for companies like Galore, for IBEX, contributing to open source projects. And it's been one of the best things I've had the opportunity to do in Bitcoin. I'm really grateful to be up on this great panel with everyone.
Hello, I'm Carlos, community builder at IBEX, also known as Carliño. I am from Guatemala, and last year when El Salvador adopted Bitcoin, we decided to do our best to increase the successful adoption of the country. And personally, I think that there is no adoption without education. The Bitcoin law calls for some kind of national education effort in El Salvador, but there has been essentially a void. I consider that primarily because no one has ever taught Bitcoin in an education system, and definitely not in Spanish, as far as I am aware of. And so instead of just criticizing on Twitter, we decided to partner with a local nonprofit and the first public high school in El Salvador to do education in the high school. And so we built a little curriculum and have graduated about 100 kids so far this year, and are telling this story via a documentary that will be released November 5th. And yeah.
And I'm excited that we're going to get a sneak peek of that after the panel. Bitcoin education has come a long way. So I was wondering if Carla could give us a bit of a rundown of how it started, where it came from, and where we are today.
Sure. I feel pretty unqualified to answer this question. So if anyone else in the panel wants to hop in, I'm sure we've got some more OG folks than me. But I think it's really interesting the way that Bitcoin education has gone from the early days, when you look at like 2013, 2014 is when Chain Code was first established. And so far as I know, they were sort of the only group running these kind of specialized programs to bring people into Bitcoin. So there were a few small residencies, 2-week programs, getting great folks like Alex Bosworth, works at Lightning Labs, and like really, people who we all know very well in this space into Bitcoin development. And that kind of was the only program of its kind for a really long time. We then kind of entered into the resourcing phase, I'd say around 2017 through 2019, where we started to see really good resources arrive. It used to be when you wanted to get into Bitcoin, you were like, I'll go to page 4 of Google, I don't really understand it. And then we saw things like Mastering Bitcoin come out, Programming Bitcoin, resources that really are incredibly high quality and incredibly easily accessible because they're open source, which is incredible. But what I love, and what is so amazing when I was looking at the speaker list, because we only just got to meet backstage, is that I'm pretty sure none of these projects existed 3 years ago. And we've just had this amazing explosion of localized education programs for Bitcoin development, which I think is really the key part, because you can't teach Bitcoin for someone who lives in a different place to you. It has a different application, it has a different importance, it has a different meaning. I think that has correlated a bit with the market because there was kind of a bit more funding available for a period of time. So we've been really fortunate to allow all of these programs to spring up in the last 2-3 years. Carla, Summer of Bitcoin, Vintium, everyone who's on the stage, and even more that weren't able to be on this panel because the stage is pretty full. So we've really moved the needle in terms of there are many localized options to learn about Bitcoin from a time where you could only learn about Bitcoin at Chain Code Labs in New York City, and on the internet, but the quality of our resources has improved so much, the accessibility of our resources has improved so much, and the localization and the scale of what we can do has really come a long way.
That is so cool to hear. And I'm so glad that you each make such a significant impact in your individual communities that might have not had it if all they had was Google, to look for programs. So if you could just share, and I'm going to give each of you the opportunity to share because we love hearing these stories, just one really cool story from your community, just one person that was really impacted, whose life was changed through the work that you've been doing in your community. Lucas, you want to start?
Sure. I think like one of the nicest things about these efforts, I think, is it's not about the curriculum that you build or the teachers that you bring to mentor the people. Like, it's all about building community and bringing people together. When you bring people together, they'll figure it out, they'll learn together, and they will like evolve as the Bitcoin developers. If we think about like all the people in the stage, Carla and even my co-founder Andre, they are like the product of the chain code residencies. We have like also shout out to the BitDevs meetups. Now they're like in thousands of cities, not thousands, but like a lot of cities. And I think a lot of founders met in some of these meetups. A lot of the projects and companies that are building on this space were like started in a hackathon in conferences like this. So like building community is really powerful. And I think one example of one story that I want to bring is also our other team member, Bruno. He's also our first grantee. And his story is really entangled with the story of Intune because it started with like me pushing him and like giving some small nudges and showing him like it's all about like showing people that what are the possibilities. I think we underestimate how much we follow the space and how much we know where the resources are and who are all the people. Like sometimes a lot of people like could be doing what we are doing, but they just don't know that that's a possibility. So showing them that that's possible and showing them what are the potential paths they could go through, it's something that like it's so like. I'm not saying I made Bruno. That's nothing at all. What I'm saying. It was his effort, his work, but without my small nudge in the beginning, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be working on Bitcoin Core. And then now we gave him a grant, and he's full-time contributing to Bitcoin Core. And even if Vintune was just that, just giving his grant and doing anything else, that would be already super powerful because now Bitcoin developers in Brazil can look at Bruno and see, oh, there's this Brazilian guy that started contributing to Bitcoin Core, and like a few months later, he got a grant and he's full-time working on it. That's amazing. I can do that too. So like inspiration and having community and having people build together and learn together, that's what will make us go through the next phase of like and having more onboarding more developers and bringing more talent to the space.
Yeah, Liberated Satoshi started last February. I quit my job after going to one conference of this. You know, when you come to this conference, you talk about this more important things: decentralization, privacy, freedom, ownership. And it's sad that you don't have that when you are back. For me, I got inspired about the great library of Alexandria, where the smartest people of the time talk about the most important topics. For me, this is every conference, and TABConf is just a proof of that. Then what I'm trying to replicate in Liberate Satoshi is that, and we have 500 people who apply, more than 150 people who take the classes, then 70 people finish a training that is more than 40 hours. Like, if you multiply all the hours, I cannot say I changed the life of nobody yet. But I think everyone here, we are just putting our grain of sand to change a little bit. And now I can say 40 people think about Bitcoin more as something super excited, like open their brains, they blow up their minds, and they don't see only Bitcoin as a money, but they see Bitcoin as a revolution. And for me, that's super, super great. I cannot share private stories without ask permission of my members, but I would say like 70 people already are Bitcoiners, and they will kill to be here with you guys.
Yeah, so Base 58, I think there's two stories that I think are kind of fun to share. One I think is like, Cody Lowe, I think, is probably the student who's come through Base 58 who people know the best. He was in the very first cohort we did in February and March, and before coming through Base 58, he really wanted to work in Bitcoin development and stuff. Came through, learned a lot, asked to be our TA for the next session, so he's been TAing for Base 58 since then, every cohort after that. Got involved with Fediment, was able to use a lot of stuff he learned at Base 58 on like Fediment spec stuff, as well as, he's also taking classes in Bitcoin blockchain education, I think has been learning a lot of stuff on his own, but it's been really cool to see him sort of becoming, I think, a really great developer in the Bitcoin space. So I was super proud that Base 58 got to be part of his journey. That's really cool. There's another small anecdote that I think like is really cool. So the thing about Base 58 education, at least, and I think there's hopefully people who have been through the class or the 6-week course can attest to this, is that, you know, it's pretty technical, but I think we do a really good job of making very technical things really approachable. And so by the time you get to the end of Base 58, you don't realize how much you know than most people in the space, right? And if Base 58 is one of the first technical programs you're going through, by the time you get to the end of it, you probably know more about script than probably, I'm going to say 99% of the people that even maybe hang out or work in the space, et cetera. But that's not something you're going to know until you start going out and start making contributions, start actually participating and doing things. So one good example of this, I think, is we had another person in Cody's cohort, the very first one that, you know, February-March class of this year. His name's Jeff. He lives out in California in San Diego. And he, you know, would go to his local Bitcoin meetup. He's been in Bitcoin a long time. And he came through Base 58, had a great time, learned a lot. And his local Bitcoin organization asked him to come give a presentation about what he learned in Base 58. So he put together, you know, a slideshow of some stuff he had learned, and he sent it to the local meetup organizer, right? And the local guy was like, Jeff, this is really great, but this is too technical for our audience. And, you know, Jeff has been a member of this community for a long time and wouldn't consider himself like a Bitcoin technical human, if that makes sense. But just taking the stuff he learned in the class to him, he thought was not, you know, he thought it would be good for the audience. So I guess it's like, you know, just kind of showing that like you can get to the other side of what it means to understand technical things in Bitcoin. Base 58, I like to think, is a really good way of doing that. I'm sure there's other programs that do similar stuff. And, you know, we're really proud of everyone who comes through and completes the homework, and really excited to see what, as a cohort, they all start to contribute as they continue their, you know, journey into Bitcoin dev. So.
My favorite story of community impact would be the story of onboarding Beans to the Lightning Network. We often go to farmers markets weekly and talk to businesses about accepting Bitcoin as an additional form of payment, and if they've heard about Bitcoin, what are their thoughts about it. So we happened to be at one farmers market drinking some awesome coffee, and I happened to ask this question, and Blake, the owner of Beans, said, yeah, I've heard about it. I've heard about Bitcoin, but I don't know exactly what it is. So this ended up leading it to us swapping phone numbers, chatting a bit there. We ended up like spending an hour, and then we ended up going to their house maybe once a week for dinner over the course of like a month, and just chatting for like literally 3 or 4 hours about Bitcoin. And we decided like we want to unite communities. So we united our community, the Arizona Bitcoin Network, and the Beans community. And what that kind of looked like was a lot of people on his side of the community had never heard of Bitcoin. There was the problem of like, if a business accepts Bitcoin, how do people hear about it? And to solve that, we came up with the Satoshi Day concept, which is kind of like celebrating a business's decision to accept Bitcoin as an additional form of payment. So we organized the event. We got Doug from BitRamp there with his terminal to sell no KYC sats. So people were onboarded from Beans community, a coffee community that never even had any sort of interaction. Multiple people from the Arizona Bitcoin Network that had never completed a Lightning transaction or realized how easy it is. Doug selling LN URL withdrawals, people scanning it, loading their wallet with sats, and then completing their first Bitcoin transaction to buy a cup of coffee. It was almost poetic because it's like always the example that's used is like buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin. So yeah, this was awesome because there were tons of people that had never like even conceived of making a Lightning transaction, that saw how much easier it was, how much better it was than the existing financial system. And after the whole event, Blake actually came up to me and he was like, Bitcoin is love. And I like at that point, I knew that the event was great, and now all the people in the communities are aware that they can pay and they can buy and purchase Bitcoin with no KYC. It's easy. It's friendly to use, which is a big, strong focus that we have at Zebedee. So.
I think there's two things that are really special about what we've been able to do at Carla. The first one actually has almost nothing to do with Bitcoin, and it's just the issue of financial mobility for African developers. We were very focused on getting folks jobs in our program. That was specifically the outcome that we wanted, and if we didn't get 12 out of 12 people placed, we considered it a failure, because we asked people to quit their jobs and trust us with their livelihoods in a place where livelihood is much more important than it is in a traditional Western setting where you're supporting 3 or 4 people. You're maybe supporting 5 or 6 people. And some of the outcomes there, I won't talk about individuals because it's kind of private, but one of our developers earned 5 times more than their current salary because Nigerian devs really struggle to access international markets. One of our best stories was someone earning more in a month than he'd earned in a year. And aside from Bitcoin, that's just special. That's 100 years of progress in 3 months for that family and for those people. So we're very proud to have that outcome, even independent of Bitcoin. But I think what's really special for Bitcoin and in this program is just making sure that Bitcoin is being built by people who understand why we need it. And we all understand why we need it. We all love Bitcoin. We're all here. But I can give an example from when we had our end of program offsite in Nigeria. We went out for dinner. It was 4 of us in a car, and on the way home, we were pulled over by the police. We were told to get out of the car. We were shouted at and had guns and baseball bats waved in our faces. And the folks who are with me are from Nigeria, and they said, we've done nothing wrong. You have no right to stop us. We're going home. I would have easily acquiesced to paying the bribe because it was terrifying, and I was just a tourist to this situation. But, we like to say that we raise our middle finger to authority and oppression in Bitcoin, but to do so when there's an AK-47 waved in your face is a pretty different level of integrity when you could probably pay a $20 bribe and be on with your day. So to have people like that who have the integrity and the character to stand up to that kind of system just in their everyday lives. I was shocked, and I'm talking about it here, but this is something that is routine for them. And to have those people working at amazing companies like Ibex and Galoy and companies that are going to use Bitcoin to change the world is incredibly special to me. Like, it doesn't get better than that, really.
So you'll meet him in the movie, but one of our students, Jonathan, he is going into engineering next year, and he's starting a part-time job with us at IBEX to help us push out more of our commercial efforts on the streets in El Salvador, and really just, for me, it's also Bitcoin has allowed me to kind of recover my hope, my sense of hope in the future of humanity, and just seeing that infection kind of spread through younger people, particularly teenagers, is just what it's about, right? And so he's already starting to make some income, and for someone like him going home and showing his parents that this can actually turn into income rather quickly, and in the comparative income level than what his parents are able to make, is, I think, the kind of 100-year success story within 3 months that we want to just keep on creating, so that this is accelerated to the point where my mission is to do everything I can for Central America to be the 21st century economic miracle, the same way that Southeast Asia was in the 20th century. And hopefully, and I'm excited that each time when I hear stories from folks on this panel, it's that I feel like there's a sense of competition between the different parts of the developing world, but it's the great kind of competition, right? It's like who can make the most amount of progress in the least amount of time, and inspire other countries to follow suit, right? That's what it's about.
I want to add, it's a healthy competition, but the way I see this is we are part of an ecosystem. what we are doing, Liberated Satoshis, we don't want to compete. Actually, we want to channel people to base ATA, maybe 58. Maybe she can give a scholarship. Like we want people go to the residency in Chain Code. We are trying to get the students to go to summer in Bitcoin. I know I'm very naive, but I like to think we are like big family. What I have to compete when my students can get a grant from Ventium, I don't have to do everything. I don't want to do everything. I want just empower other people to do their best and start contributing to Bitcoin Core, be entrepreneurs. And personally, I think we shouldn't compete. We are not, in the educational space, we are not merging PRs. We are sharing knowledge and sharing love. And I see things as an ecosystem, just that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the great thing about it, like the amount of collaborative work that we've all had to have, like sharing syllabuses and working on resources. And maybe if someone isn't a fit for me, they'll be a fit for you. And it's been like really great to work with this emergent Bitcoin, Bitcoin education, like industry that didn't used to exist, and really just having folks pop up all over the world and really be like mutually additive. There's no like competition. That one never takes away from the other. It only makes the collective stronger, which is really great.
Yeah, and like all we're doing is open source. So like, we just started at Vintune a seminar that is totally using the chain code curriculum, and the curriculum is open source. So maybe one of our students will see something that is missing there, and he will like stream it up and contribute back. So and then later, someone that is going through Liberated Satoshi maybe gets a grant from us, or we also had some people that we encouraged to apply for Summer of Bitcoin. They went through it, so that was a good filter for us and a good like onboarding for us for then evaluate giving a grant to. So that's like all this like synergy that all these projects can have.
Yeah, it's incredibly encouraging and inspiring to hear all of your stories and what's happening in your communities. But not all of us in the audience are entrepreneurial like you, or can like start a community, or maybe they can. But like, is there any advice that you have for us that yeah, maybe we should all start our own like pod of Bitcoin education, or anything else that you have for us that you would like to share with the audience?
Actually, like one thing I noticed, and that's something I already shared here, like we underestimate how much we follow this space and how much we know what are the things and what are the possibilities. And we have like some developers in Brazil that are now working at Zebedee, at Amboss, and I kind of helped them get those jobs. But like the only thing I did was, hey, why don't you apply?
You can make it work. So finding any opportunity, and you can define what showing up means for you, but I think if all of us, clearly everyone here today showed up, so thank you for coming, here physically in Meet Space. That's pretty great. And so just keep doing what you're doing, like keep showing up, and I think that everyone showing up will make Bitcoin what we all hope it will be, if it's not already. So
Sorry, Santos, before you go, I just want to say that showing up can also be contributing to an open source project. And some people really underestimate how much that helps people see what you're capable of and include you in the project, and really provide opportunities in the future for you. So just shout out to open source projects.
What I would say is that everyone here knows something special and knows more than what they think that they know. And that means that everyone here has something to teach. For me personally, I used to write like lots of different blogs and videos, but I was too scared to share them. It actually wasn't until I joined the Bitcoin community and I felt incredibly welcomed. I started chatting with different people, asking questions, and then answering their questions. And I felt like, what I had to say and what I could say to these individuals mattered, and they got value from it. They showed up again to the next meetup. They asked me more questions. They got deeper down their Bitcoin journey. So this is a call to action for everyone. All the project that you're working on, the video that you created, the blog post that you wrote, it's valuable. It matters. share it, ship it, and then grow from it. That would be like what I would say is my advice.
Yeah, and do it badly. Like anything you do, you have to do it badly before you can do it great. So like share the bad stuff because it will develop into good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think even the bad stuff, what you think is bad stuff, like we were talking about earlier, is probably fantastic. Like when you're going to local meetups and communities, that conversation that you have with someone can absolutely change your life. And you probably know significantly more about Bitcoin than like people that may be going to the meetup for the first time. That conversation that you have with that person does change their life forever, in my opinion. And if we want a real shot at obsoleting the legacy education system, we have to do this. They're not teaching Bitcoin at like my local public schools, my local community colleges, or even at ASU. So we got to make it happen, and that all starts at the local remote and having local remote and self-service options.
I guess that the way I think about it in terms of ways that people can move the needle individually on education is looking at where we're really not winning at the moment. I really encourage everyone to go watch Jonas's presentation from yesterday. I think it was recorded. He's the head of special projects at Chaincode, and he spends a lot of time thinking about this. But just to give it a summary, I think that I kind of touched on it at the beginning of the panel, but we're kind of okay for content. We have a lot of great content out there. We have a lot of open source projects and syllabuses that you can use. We have this textbook, which I want to do, but it's not in English yet, but it's getting there. And we're kind of okay for funding as well for these kind of initiatives. I think that Bitcoin funding can always be better. Like it's always tough, especially when the market's down. But it's, I'd say, the healthiest it's ever been in terms of decentralization and runway. But where we're really losing the education battle, and I'd say on the technical and the sort of less technical side, it's just a people problem. Like Santos was saying, finding people who show up and do the work is hard. People drop out of these programs. You start with a study group of 70 people and you end with 10 when you run a 10-week study group. There is that natural rate of attrition because not everyone is going to do the work. And finding the people who can do the work and either collecting them into your own thing that you start or bringing them into one of the projects that maybe you've heard about today is the most helpful thing you can do because, like, I mean, everyone knows recruiting is hard, right? And finding people that will do this and that will care is like one of the most challenging parts of this job. So if you know someone, so I'm just saying to annoy your friends and family about Bitcoin even more than you already do is my advice, if humanly possible, because I know we've all burnt many of those bridges and ruined many cocktail parties already.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I have two pieces of advice that have had a tremendous impact on because the outcome of my education efforts. Number one, is, and at least this is with no coiners, pre-coiners. Number one is show and tell. Focus on making sure that if you're talking to someone, instead of necessarily like talking at them for hours about how we went off the gold standard and the Federal Reserve and all that stuff, just showing them how to open a wallet, back up your seed, and send a transaction. Actually interact with the Bitcoin network is not something you can unlearn. Once you did it, it's like riding a bike, and you peel off that sense of impossibility and cryptography and it's only like the super smart people that know how to do this. If you do that and you don't mention anything regarding the gold standard and how we lost it a long time ago, that's so much more impactful and relevant. And if that person ever needs Bitcoin, now they know that they can actually use it, right? So you can't unlearn it. And number two is focus on younger people. My family no longer wants to talk to me about this, but actually a 15-year-old will love to learn something new like this and will pick it up much faster, and again, they'll never forget it. And I'm convinced that if we can get every single 18-year-old and under human being in the world to understand how to open a non-custodial wallet for themselves, it'll be the same thing that happened to me with email. I sent maybe 5 letters through the post office in my entire life, but I've sent tens of thousands of emails. we can do that, particularly with those populations that can't open a bank account because they're not old enough to manage their own money. So let's use the fiat stupidity against them.
Yeah, you speak from my heart, obviously. I host the Next Gen Village, and the younger the better. Bring bring more kids to TABConf next year, please. But you've also touched on something that I wanted to talk about, which is not everybody learns best by attending a seminar or a class or even a remote class. So what are some approaches, what are some ways of teaching that you've already mentioned, just opening a Bitcoin wallet with someone? That's more of a practical almost apprenticeship approach, right? You're doing it, they're doing it under your supervision. Next time they'll be able to do it without your supervision. Like what are some other, you've mentioned TikToks. I love that idea. That's a fantastic way to not just disseminate information, but also just, encourage people. And is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience with approaches?
The only thing we do with our kids to certify them and give them a diploma is three things. We make sure they can open a non-custodial wallet for themselves and back up their seeds and actually watch them do it. And then we lend them our phone and give them a seed phrase with a few sats and make them restore that seed on a separate device so that the normie understands that the sats aren't on the device themselves, they're on the keys. And finally, send a transaction. If you do those three things, you're level 1 Bitcoiner in my world.
I definitely think having like a range of options is great. Like at Zebedee, as an example, people can begin using Bitcoin's Lightning Network without even knowing that they're using it. And when they receive their first transaction or payment from a game, they wonder, well, what is Bitcoin? What are sats? Like begin going deeper down the rabbit hole. And now we'll be able to actually have a full Lightning course offered by Zebedee to go deeper. But it's not deeply technical, but it's high level enough they can get an understanding of why are we building on Bitcoin? Why are we using the Lightning Network? How does it work? And then how to design their first application, build a paywall, and be able to do so with simple APIs, which developers are already used to, so they can kind of choose their own journey and go down the rabbit hole. If you're more of like a consumer, you can also jump into some of the TikToks that I've done. You can learn in 30 seconds now how to onboard and receive your first Lightning payment. It's very easy to do. So having a range of options depending upon how deep someone wants to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and we've had conversations about gamifying learning as well. Some people learn best through games. Can you say something about that?
Absolutely. One thing that I've thought a lot about when it comes to gamification of learning is providing, Duolingo does a great job of providing like a lot of positive messaging, animation. Now with the Lightning Network, we could also tie in a monetary reward for learning as well. So I'm also very curious to see if you make a purchase of a course for like 10,000 or 100,000 sats and you can get back 15% of 15,000 sats, does this actually solve the retention problem that we were discussing earlier, people dropping out of courses? I think it has a really good shot to fixing MOOC retention rates for sure.
Well, Carlini is going to show us our, and say a few words about the documentary that he's running. But let's thank our panel before we do that.
Cool. So after the video, there's 5 minutes for Q&A, apparently. Yeah, I mean, we're ready to go. It's going to be premiering November 5th at Bitcoin for India, but as of November 6th, you can watch it, the full thing, on Bitcoin TV or YouTube. So. Yay.
We do have 5 minutes for Q&A if anyone has any questions for any of our panelists.
So this, what you just saw, if you go on the website a sly roundabout way, there's a link to the PDF download. It's also on Mi Primera Bitcoin's GitHub. And currently it's available in Spanish. The English translations may be like 2 weeks away. So it's freely available in both English and Spanish. Spanish currently, English within 2 weeks. And it's published under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. So, go forth, multiply.
And for
Also, I want to say, Stephen, if you have just the beginning of the video, did it have the link to where you can see the full version in November on it?
Yes, aslyroundaboutway.com. It'll be available there as of November 6th, the full documentary. And again, from today, you can get the PDF straight from that website, or again, go to the GitHub for Mi Primera Bitcoin and see like individually. And you can
I
even
was just wondering if we can put it on. Can we not? Oh, okay, never mind then.
And for most
Okay.
for most of the initiatives that are based on chain code curriculum, you can find it in Chain Code Labs, Google it, and then you go to education. But most of the information is in GitHub for free. Like, for example, we follow what Chain Code and Carla was doing, and they were writing, and we were teaching with that information without they knowing we were teaching with that. Like, everything is in GitHub. Then if you don't have a GitHub account, you need one. And I can share the links in the Telegram group. And for Nifty,
Yeah, so Base 58, we've got some stuff that's free. Most of our stuff you have to pay for, which is fine. We're really proud of our curriculum, and I think it's fair. We're trying to make it sustainable. Part of the way that you make things sustainable is you get people to pay the value that you're providing them with. So that's what we do. That being said, we're really excited about a mini curriculum course that's coming up on Replit pretty soon. They had a mini curriculum jam. We were the winner. There were a couple winners, but we were one of the teams that was selected to make some free materials on Replit. We're hoping to do more stuff on Replit soon. So I don't know when that'll be out. You can follow us on Twitter. We're Base58 BTC on Twitter, and I'm sure we'll be sharing more of the Replit stuff as soon as we've got it. Yeah.
All the stuff that we're putting out will be free and open. I share all my slide decks. You can find a lot of the stuff that I've created on School of Nakamoto on either Bitcoin TV or YouTube. It's 5, like Santos, but with the 5, and then Hernandez. You can find me there.
That's probably going to be our last question.
Test.
Okay.
Yeah, so this might be a stupid, crazy idea. I wanted to see what you guys think. So one of the problems, I think, with education and open source and finding talent and expertise, you have, senior whatever engineers and developers already working at companies. They've got full-time jobs, and I guess sometimes what we try to do with education is we're trying to find full-time teachers too, where if the talent and expertise, if they're already working at a job, then where are the qualified teachers that are going to be able to provide the education? Is there anything have you guys seen anything or thought about it? Is there a way to maybe get companies to take a small percentage, like a 20% of your engineers' time to do teaching kind of as part of your job? So like basically instead of finding 100% of people, basically people putting in 100% of their time to teach, can we get people to spend 80% of their time doing their job and 20% of their time teaching, but we can reach a bigger volume of teachers? Like, I don't know, do you guys have any thoughts on that kind of model and how it fits into your training and education programs?
I can speak a bit to that. I think that there are some chances to contribute when you don't have a lot of time allocation. So as an example, the chain code seminars work, which we run, Dulce runs, Lucas runs, a really nice way of starting out an education program. And all of us are always looking for folks to host a wrap-up. So probably someone who's already been through it and understands the content. The class splits out groups of 4 or 5, and they answer questions, and then you show up for a 30-minute to an hour, really however long you want to be. Some of them you can talk about Bitcoin for 2 hours, but you just host that one wrap-up for that 1 week. So that's a nice light touch way to get involved. In terms of our teachers for our program, we do pay them. So we had amazing teachers. Some of them might be here. So we had Stefan, Will Clark, and Duncan Dean for this first run. And what I like about our teacher model, which doesn't always work because it's based on the assumption that your teachers will go on and leave you after first run, but it's really hard to make the jump between a full-time job and working on Bitcoin open source. So what we try to do is give our teachers space and time on our paycheck to also build out an open source profile at the same time. So they're teaching, they're working, they're building, but they also have that kind of in between from a full-time job to getting a Bitcoin grant that allows them to build that portfolio, because that's still a bit of an unsolved issue in the development community, I think.
We can take another
Great,
question.
and we had one last question over here.
Yeah, I know it's difficult to get kids involved in this because it involves work, and kids have trouble with work. I think in general, I know I did when I was a kid. Is there anything in particular that grabs the attention you've noticed? Is it a particular topic or a pitch that you notice like they really latch on to the most?
Well, I haven't really talked much on this panel, but I can speak to that because I homeschool my children. And what I do most of the time is getting out of their way and letting them do what they're interested in. So forcing someone to do anything is going to have poor results. And if you just, but at the same time, people can't get good at anything that they don't have access to. You can't become a great swimmer if you never are near the water. So you need to do the thing that you want to get good at. That applies not just to kids, but everybody. And if you just provide the opportunities and then let them run with it, that tends to be the winning strategy, at least in my household. I don't know if that answers your question, but that, yeah. So thank you all for participating in the panel. It's been educational. Thank you very much.